You know, we've all had that one teacher who was just great. But what was their secret? It wasn't just what they said, it was something way more subtle. Today, we're diving into the hidden language of the classroom and how teachers can actually learn to master it.
So, what is that secret ingredient? What's the thing that truly separates a pretty good teacher from a life-changing great one? You might think, well, it's their lesson plans or how much they know about their subject. And yeah, that's part of it. But the real answer? It's so much more subtle, and it happens in the quiet spaces between the words.
Exactly. The real magic is in the unspoken stuff. The gestures, the way they look at a student, the facial expressions that can guide an entire classroom. It's like a silent dialogue. But that brings up a massive question. If this whole language is invisible, how on earth do you teach it?
And this brings us to what we can call the teacher's invisible toolkit. These are the skills that are just so hard to pin down in a textbook, but they are absolutely essential for making a classroom come alive.
Okay, so the academic term for this whole toolkit is multimodality. Now I know, it's a fancy word, but it's for a really simple idea. A great teacher communicates with their entire being. A pointed finger, a raised eyebrow, a perfectly timed smile. These are all incredibly powerful teaching tools that create meaning just as much as spoken words do.
And right here, this is the core of the problem. How do you train someone who's new to teaching to not only see these subtle cues, but to actually use them? And the challenge gets even bigger when you start thinking about different cultures, where a gesture that works in Europe might mean something totally different in Japan.
Well, the solution researchers came up with is actually brilliant in its simplicity. Telecollaboration. Think of it like a virtual exchange program. It uses digital tools we all have, video calls, shared documents, to connect student teachers across the globe. This lets them work together and learn from each other's perspectives, all without the huge cost of physical travel. So let's take a look at how this actually worked in practice. Researchers set up this fascinating experiment, basically creating a virtual bridge between two very, very different worlds of teaching, Sweden and Japan.
So they brought together student teachers of English from these two really distinct cultures. And the goal was to see if they could learn to spot these invisible teaching skills by watching and analyzing classrooms from both inside and outside their own cultural bubbles.
The study itself involved 12 people in total, 8 student teachers from a university in Sweden and 4 from a university in Japan. They were all on the path to becoming English teachers, and they each brought their own unique cultural and educational background right into the mix.
And the task they were given? It was so cool. The students would get together in these small online groups to analyze video clips of real lessons, some from European classrooms, some from Japanese ones. Their job was to break down everything the teachers were doing, both what they said and what they didn't say.
And the process itself was really clear and structured. First, they'd read some guiding questions together, then they'd watch the video clips, which even had transcripts to help them out. But the crucial part, step 3, was the discussion. They talked about what they saw and actually wrote their analysis together in real time. And finally, they'd each submit a personal reflection on the whole thing.
Okay, and this is where it gets really, really exciting. As the researchers started analyzing the recordings of these online chats, a clear and incredibly powerful pattern of discovery started to pop up. This quote really just gets to the heart of it all. The ability to notice, to really see the complex dance happening in a classroom, that's what separates the novices from the experts. And this experiment found a way to actually help new teachers build that muscle. So, here's the big takeaway. The simple act of working together online allowed these student teachers to systematically unpack that invisible language of the classroom. They weren't just passively watching videos. They were actively building a shared understanding of what they were seeing.
So, the researchers figured out that the students fell into this natural 3-step rhythm. First, one student would notice something subtle in the video, like a specific hand gesture the teacher made. Then, another student would often enact it. They'd literally mimic the gesture on their webcam. And this simple act made an abstract idea totally concrete. Finally, the group would work together to describe its function, figuring out what the teacher was actually trying to do with that gesture.
So through this amazing notice, enact, describe cycle, a tiny fleeting gesture was transformed into a real, tangible teaching technique that they all understood. For example, they could look at a teacher's open hand gesture and see it not just as a random movement, but as a specific tool for hinting at the right answer without just giving it away. They were literally decoding the teacher's toolkit together.
Now, this discovery has some pretty profound implications. It really offers a new roadmap for the future of teacher training, one that's not only effective, but also incredibly accessible.
So what's the big picture here? How can this little experiment with just 12 students help us train the millions of new teachers we need all around the world?
Well, the benefits are just huge. This kind of telecollaboration model makes those invisible teaching skills suddenly visible and, because of that, trainable. It directly helps build what experts call classroom interactional competence, and so importantly, by bringing these different cultures together, it fosters this deep intercultural awareness, showing students that there's more than one right way to be a great teacher. It's a practical blueprint for a much more connected way of educating educators.
And really, that's the ultimate power of this idea. It gives us a concrete way to develop more skilled, culturally sensitive, and globally aware teachers, all through a simple video call. It completely democratizes access to this kind of high-quality professional development.
And this leaves us with a final big thought. If a simple, well-designed virtual meetup can teach something as nuanced and complex as the unspoken language of a classroom, well, just imagine what other unteachable skills we can finally unlock. What other parts of education are just waiting to be transformed from a distance?